Hi, it's time for our video about outdoor patio stations. If you have a modern NuTone intercom system made from 1974 through about the end of 2010, chances are, if you have any outdoor patio stations, it's designed to be something similar to this. Starting in 1974, almost all outdoor patio stations became surface-mounted patio stations, which simply mean that they have a mounting base. And they did that on the newer design systems because it was easier to just poke the intercom wire out through a small hole in the wall and then put the base and then mount the speaker on top of the base, as opposed to having a flush mount speaker, which means you had a big hole in the wall about the same size as the entire station, and those type of designs were prone to leaking and things like that, and not a good design in the modern day. So they became surface-mounted speakers. This is what we would call a 5-inch patio station because it has a 5-inch speaker cone. Most people that have patio stations have something around this size and this type of configuration where it's a self-contained system. You've got the speaker here behind the grill, and then your intercom buttons and a volume control. So this is most commonly what you see. The problem with outdoor equipment is always the same. It's outdoors, and it suffers from the wind and the rain and the sun and insects and snow and hail and tornadoes and whatever else you have where you live. Over time, they get really ratty looking like this one. Parts of it begin to wear out, speaker cones fail, sometimes the switches suffer, and if they get water inside of them, it's all bad. Eventually, usually in most cases, sometime between 10 and 15 years after the original installation was done, patio stations need some help. Of course, finding replacement patio stations is really difficult because when systems are discontinued, they no longer continue to make replacement stations for any particular model. And since outdoor equipment is what wears out first, it's also the equipment that gets used up first out of whatever remaining stock is floating around in the world, and they can become quite hard to find, and they can become quite expensive. This is an IS335 white. It's from a IM or an IMA 3303 system, one of the most popular patio stations right now in this time. And occasionally you'll see someone on, say, eBay have one of these for sale. It'll be new old stock in the box. It's nearly in perfect condition or in perfect condition. They may want as much as $200 to $275 for it, which is pretty crazy considering that, say, in 1997, retail price on it was about $62. So the question is, what can you do? Well, you have some options. This particular one came from a customer's house on a service call locally, and I happen to have a new old stock one that I could install in replace of this one, and no, I didn't charge her $275. I actually charged her considerably less than that because we don't tend to gouge our customers. We try to be fair about what we have. She wanted the whole thing replaced because this has discolored greatly. And to give you some idea of what this started off like when it was brand new, it looked like this. And you can see how much it's discolored. It was facing west on the house. It had no covering at all from the overhang or anything like that. And so it got all of the sun and all of the wind and all of the rain, and I think the house was built about maybe 20 years ago, so it's in pretty rough shape. And of course, you can see a stark difference. For those of you who don't have a local NuTone service center that prices things fairly, you have some options. We do have our replacement patio stations. We make patio stations out of indoor stations, and we do have a video that shows how we do that. These are proper outdoor patio stations now. We treat the speaker cones with the wet look to protect them. We seal the back of the switchboard with conformal coating to seal the solder points and the metal from moisture so they don't rust and corrode. And we make the all-important rubber gasket that goes in front of the switches to seal them up. So this is a proper outdoor conversion now. This is perfectly suited to go outside. The problem that you have is, even if you take this off, put that aside, you can't very well put this on here and have the box look like that. That's not going to fly. The lady on the service call, she'd never accept that, and frankly, neither would I. Now some of you might ask or think, well, this is the fellow on YouTube that does the re-whitening of the plastic grills, and can't he take this and the base and do re-whitening on it? No. Outdoor stations like this, they're too badly yellowed and too badly discolored to be re-whitened. It will never actually become white again. It might be a less objectionable yellow when it's done, but it's certainly not going to be white. And also, the bases are very hard to re-whiten because when they sit in the re-whitening tank like this, the light shines down from above and it doesn't hit the sides very well, and you would have to like do it each end and side one at a time, and that would take like 4 days, and even then it's not going to turn out very well. So neither one of these are really good candidates for re-whitening. And then you might think, well, can't I just get another base? Don't you have a base that I can buy? Well, no, because the bases came with the Patio Station in the box when you bought it new, and nobody really kept extra bases. You couldn't even buy bases out of the product side of NuTone. You could order them out of the parts department, but basically it's a molded piece of heavy-duty plastic, and why would you do that? I think maybe in the 30 years I've been doing this, I might have ordered 1 or 2 bases to replace damaged ones or lost ones or something like that. And if you had an application where you didn't need the base for whatever reason on an installation, you wouldn't always hang on to them. It's just like, what am I going to do with it? And odds are it would have gotten thrown away. So bases are very, very hard to come by. You almost never see them for sale separately. And if you find used ones, they look a lot like this. So why would you spend money on that? The point of this video is to show you what you can do with the base to clean it up and make it look better. And then you can reuse it, and you can put your new replacement white speaker on the front of it, and it won't look objectionable, and you won't get yelled at because it looks sloppy and grimy and old and tired. It'll look new and fresh, hopefully, when we're all done. So let's take a close look at what's wrong with it, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do. As you can see, it's all very dirty and grimy on the inside. We're not too concerned about the inside. We are concerned about the outside quite a bit. And if you look here on the top, you can see it's got a fair amount of grime on it. In fact, if we take a rag that's a little bit wet, it's got a little Windex on it from cleaning something else. If we go like this, you can see that some of it rubs away and ends up on the rag. And the sides over here, they have some paint on it and maybe a little bit of caulking where it was sealed against the wall. Same thing on the bottom. Same thing on this side. In fact, we've got some paint blotches here going up the side. And of course, around the edge, there's this black rubber gasket which comes out. And you need to have the rubber gasket because when you put the speaker on the front of the base and tighten down the screws, it compresses the gasket, and that makes a watertight seal. And yes, it should only go around the 3 sides, not along the bottom. So what am I going to do with this? Well, the first thing I'm going to do with this is I'm going to take it over to the wash sink, and I'm going to thoroughly clean it. I'm going to spray it with some citrus orange cleaner, and I'm going to scrub it with a Scotch-Brite blue sponge pad, and I'm going to clean off all the dirt and grime and see if I can get some of the paint off of it, and then I'll be right back. So sit tight, and I'll see you in a minute. I'm back. All right, so after a little bit of time at the wash sink, I've cleaned it all up. I used my orange citrus cleaner. You can see it's nice and clean inside now. On the outside, I got all the grime off of it. And I got the paint off of it that was on it also. You can see here where there's the darker discoloration here and on the corner and across the top or bottom here. Those are places where there was paint on the plastic. Oftentimes the pigments that are in latex paint, when they're on plastic for a long time, they will leach into the plastic and stain it like this. There was also along the top, there was some paint, but there was also, once I got the dirt off of it, there was a lot of paint like spatters from people had painting around it and it spattered on it. So I cleaned all of those off also. In fact, there's one more little one right there. That's got to go. Just like that. One thing you can do when you clean something like this, if it's really, really grimy and you're having a hard time getting it really clean, use your blue Scotch-Brite pad because it won't scratch, that's why it's blue, and just use a little common kitchen cleanser like Comet or Ajax or something like that, and put a little water on it, make kind of a paste out of it, and use that. It's a very mild abrasive, and it will clean away the grime that's embedded on the surface of the plastic, and then it'll become much cleaner. So now it's clean, but it's still discolored. And to remind you of what we're going for here, if we put our fancy white grill on it, it still doesn't look so good. You really don't want it to be this kind of color. So what are we going to do with this? Well, what we're going to do with it is we're going to paint it. So on the way to the shop this morning, I stopped at the Home Improvement Center and I bought some spray paint. You might wonder, well, why has he got 3 colors? Well, because not all outdoor patio stations are white. Starting around 1994, they were all white. They became white as the standard color. But earlier than that, they were also available in what NuTone used to call Adobe White. And we'll talk about Adobe White in a second. For the one we're doing today, this is what I chose. This is Rust-Oleum Painter Touch 2X Ultra Cover Paint and Primer all-in-one. It's a good paint. It's easy to use. It sets up pretty fast. It has a dry time, dry to the touch in about 20 minutes. Dry to handle in an hour, although you should always wait 24 hours, let it fully dry. It's easy to use. It has a nice spray nozzle on it, and it's inexpensive. It's like $5. So that's pretty good, and you can get a lot out of one of these. The one for the speaker we're doing today, I chose Blossom White because that was the white that they had. And you know, white is white is white. And then there's that other kind of white, but you know, pretty much white is white. I chose to use a satin finish because satin finish is more forgiving than a high gloss finish. High gloss finishes show every little blemish and every little defect in the surface of the plastic, and you have to think about the fact that your base is like 20 to 25 years old, and they might have a little nick or a little this or a little that. So if you can hide it a little better, that's okay. I don't like flat because flat tends to get marked up and fingerprints on it and stuff too easily, so satin seems to be the happy medium. So for today's project, we're using Blossom White. If you have an Adobe White speaker, and I happen to have an example here, this is Adobe White. And to show you some comparison, there's a bright white, and this is Adobe White, and this is brand new old stock. So this is how it looks coming out of the box. I had a little bit of a hard time deciding which of these two colors I thought would look best. This one's probably a little darker, but this one is a little lighter because of course you never can find an exact match, but you go with what you think will work the best in your application. This one is called Ivory Silk in satin, and this one happens to be called Heirloom White in satin. So, you know, you pick the color that you think works best for your house and best for your patio station that you're going to put in, but either one of these will be fine. It's not like when you have the big barbecue 2 weeks after you do this, everybody's going to show up and go, oh my God, why did you use that color for the base? Nobody's even going to look at it. It doesn't matter. And also, after it's outside for a month, it's going to have a little bit of built up layer of dirt on it unless you keep it clean. So you're not going to see it all that much. So as for spray painting is pretty easy. It's all about 90% preparation and 10% of actual spraying. You have to clean what you're going to paint well, make sure there's no dirt or grime on it. If it feels greasy or oily, use some paint thinner or something to clean that off, and then wash it with soap and water again to get all the residue off, and make sure the plastic is really clean. Since you're going from a yellowed surface to a white surface, you probably don't need primer, but this has primer built into it, so that just makes it even simpler. And the trick on spray painting is be consistently even as you move the can across. Don't swing it back and forth like this, just nice straight line. And many light coats are better than one big heavy coat. One big heavy coat has a tendency to get runs and sags in it, and then it doesn't look very good. And if it bothers you, then you've got to wait till it dries for 2 days and then sand them out a little bit and then give it one more coat. If you take your time, it should go along just fine. So I've got the base that we washed outside, and I've given it a coat of our Blossom White, and it's drying right now. And as soon as it's dry enough to touch, I'll bring it back inside and we'll put it back together, and you tell me what you think. Back from the great outdoors. So I painted our base, and as you can see, it's now white. And to give you some comparison as to the white, if we hold up the original grill, and if you recall, it all totally matched before. Now you can see the stark difference between, what was the paint called? Blossom White. Blossom White seems to be the way to go. And to really judge it, we need to put our new speaker on it. But before we do that, it's important to put a new gasket. So the old gasket here is all flat and squished, although it does have the shape of the space it fits into, but you should always have a new gasket to put in it. NuTone doesn't make these gaskets anymore, so we make them here ourselves, and all you have to do is wrap it around in the groove like that. If it's a little long, you can always trim off the end. You do only put it on 3 sides. You go up the left, across the top, and down on the right side. On the bottom edge, there are these 4 little weep holes here, and the point of that is if for some reason water did get down inside of this, it gives a place it's going to run down inside the plastic case, and it can run out the weep holes, just like the weep holes in your windows in your house. It's the same idea. So you should always put the new gasket in, and then when you put the speaker on the face of it and tighten down the screws, it'll compress the gasket and keep water from running out. So that's how you put that in. I'm going to take that out just for the video because it makes it easier for me. And here's our replacement speaker, and we're going to take this and sit it on the base and put it in the groove. And now we have a restored, new looking IS339, formerly an IS335, outdoor patio station. And I think the Blossom White in the satin finish matches the glossy white finish of the speaker grill very nicely. Nobody would ever complain, and I still think satin is the way to go. So that's how you can clean up and cosmetically restore the base of your existing surface mount outdoor patio station when you want to put a new replacement speaker assembly on the face of it. I hope you found this interesting and perhaps helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up on YouTube because that always helps. There'll be a banner right here that shows you how to subscribe. Go to our YouTube homepage, click on the bell or on the wheel, put in your email address, and every time we post a new video, you'll get a notification and you can watch it. That's all for today. See you on the next video.